Hi, I'm Jenny Fish, and welcome to our fingerless mitts with a flip top knit along. Appreciate you stopping in, and let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk about the pattern, the design, and the products that we'll be using. But first off, we have to talk about this pattern. These are fingerless mitts with a flip top. So what that means basically is that you can wear it two different ways and without much fuss. You put it on, you've got your fingerless mitts for texting, high-fiving, whatever. And then when your fingers get cold, you just tuck this over and now you have a mitten. I left the thumb out on purpose. I like that idea of having my thumb available, but if it gets really cold, you can kind of tug on that and bring it up a little bit. But these are fingerless mitts, and the flip top here is actually sewn on, and I'll show you how to do that in the tutorial where you can just pick up these stitches to create the flip top. But it's like little popovers. Okay, and then supplies. Let's talk about those real quick. While I have this is our mitten blocker, and it has this little piece here, like this. This goes into the thumb area. Whoops, the pointy part goes down because what it does is it's gonna lie against the mitten blocker there. So that goes in there. And then there's two different sides. This is if you have a rounded mitten top, and this is if you have a more pointy. Like this one's more pointy. And then that just slides in there. After you've soaked them, then you finish blocking them by sliding the blocker in there. One other thing I want to talk about real quick on these blockers. They do have this tape on the back of here. And it's like a paper tape type thing, and sometimes you're like, how do I get that off? Okay, so you just take the needle or a straight pin, something, and you just score it, and then you can just peel it right off. You don't have to get it wet and scratch it off or anything like that, but you just need to score it, and then the paper will peel right off, and it's not sticky after you peel it off. You just get it started, and then it just peels right off. If a piece gets stuck, that easy. So I just wanted to kind of go over that on these acrylic pieces that we have. We have sock blockers, mitten blockers, beanie blockers, bobbins. They all have this paper on here that you have to peel off. So that's how you do that. Okay, clean up my mess there. We are using Rowan felted tweed for the yarn. This is a DK weight yarn, and it's tweed, so it's got these little flecks in here and some very vibrant colors. For this set here, I used the Xenia and the Sulfur. I used these two colors. And it's weird because of the pattern that we're using here. We're going to be doing some Helix knitting, which is a spiral knitting, one stripe. I'll show you how to do all that. But when you look at it, these two combined kind of change the context of the color. And so I like that. Think about that in your color choices. They kind of tone down each other, mix together, all kinds of fun color things. We're using a size 4 knitting needle. Now, in this project, you can knit using double pointed needles because you're knitting in the round, or you can use long circular needles and knit magic loop. Or if you do have some of those shorter circular needles, like the 8-inch or the 9-inch circular needles, you can use those as well. Whatever you're comfortable with. I like to fall back to my magic loop. I'm more comfortable with that. But just keep in mind, you're knitting in the round, so use your preferred method of knitting in the round for this project on a US size 4. You'll need stitch markers, tapestry needle, scissors, measuring tape, same old, normal stuff. Okay, so that's the pattern, that's the supplies, that's kind of the basics of what we're going over here. Let's cast on. So I'm just using a long tail cast on. I'm going to go straight into ribbing. So if you want to use a stretchy cast on or 2 needle, which is what I'm going to do, is a 2 needle long tail cast on. But just use what you're comfortable with, keeping in mind that we will be going straight into the ribbing. So we're casting on here, working the ribbing. I'm just going to cast on a few here to give you an idea. Because this is around the wrist, in order to get around the wrist, it has to go over your hand, so it needs to be a little stretchy. That's why I'm doing the 2 needle. You guys have probably seen me do that before, but basically I just put both my needles together and do the long tail cast on. And if you need help with the long tail cast on, I'll put a link up above that'll take you to our stitch support video that'll give you more information on the long tail cast on. Now here is my trick when knitting in the round with the long tail cast on or with any cast on. When I'm using magic loop, I'm going to cast on half of the amount of stitches that the pattern calls for. And then I'm going to place a stitch marker, and I'm just doing a sample here to show you how we get started. Then I place my stitch marker, and then I cast on the rest. Now this part is not in the pattern. This is just a little tip to help you along the way. So I'm going to cast on a few more here. Okay, so once you get all your stitches cast on, then if you're using magic loop, I slide to the center, pull one needle out, and this is where the stitch marker comes in handy, is you pull, and that's where you're going to bend your needle when you're using magic loop. And then, here we go. Make sure that none of these crisscross. You want all of the outside to be not twisted. So you want to make sure it goes all the way around and it's not twisted, because when you go to start knitting, if they're twisted, then you're going like a infinity sign, and then you wouldn't be able to get your hand in the glove. Okay, or in the mitt. Then I'm going to start knitting in the round. Notice that I pulled this one to the back because my first stitch is going to be a knit stitch. I want that there right away so it doesn't get caught in my needle and cause an accidental yarn over. Pulling my back needle out and then knit into that first stitch just like that. And we're doing a 1 by 1 rib, which is knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and purl 1. So we're going to go all the way around. We're going to continue with the 1 by 1 ribbing until our cuff is 1 inch long. So this is the part that we're going to work on here. Now once that's done, then meet me back here and I'll show you how to continue on with the striping. Okay, so here I've gone ahead and finished the ribbing. Now we're ready to start on the stripes. Now this is 1 row of one color, 1 row of another color, except for we're knitting in the round. And when you knit in the round, you're actually knitting in a spiral. Each round is stacking on top of the other one. So in order to do a jogless 1 row striped pattern, we use what's called helical knitting or helix knitting. I want to grab my next color that I'm going to be using, which is this sulfur color, this yellow color, very vibrant. I love these colors. And for round 1, you just start knitting. And we're going to knit all the way around until we're 3 stitches before the end of the round. So I'm knitting all the way around in the new color. And again, I am working magic loop. If you were working on double pointed needles, you might have 20 stitches on one needle, then 10 and 10, or you might have 4 needles with 10 stitches and then knit with the 5th one. However you choose, if you use double pointed needles, you'll have that part figured out. Or you could use 2 circular needles. Whatever your preferred method of knitting in the round is will work for this project. I just prefer magic loop. Okay, so I'm almost to the end of this side. Let me continue knitting here. Now I'm at the end of this side. Pull that, flip it around, bring my back needle to the front. Now I'm going to continue knitting until 3 stitches before the end of the round. And you'll notice I do not have a beginning of the round marker on my work, and that is because I am using magic loop. And the end of my loop is the beginning of my round at this time. But after we're done with this round, I will show you that having a beginning of the round marker doesn't really matter in this style. We're going to go by inches, so having the beginning of the round is going to change every round, because now I'm 3 stitches before the end of the round. These 3 stitches, in order for this technique that I'm showing you, I'm not going to knit these. I'm going to slide them onto that needle, onto my right needle. Then I'm going to flip my work. Now I'm going to pick up and start knitting with the orange yarn. So those 3 stitches, by slipping those, I'm avoiding a really jump in the change of color. It fades in by doing it this way. So now I pick up and I start knitting with the orange. Now, at this point, I'm going to knit until 3 stitches before the color change. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to knit all the way around. So I'll knit all the stitches on here. So like I talked about, a beginning of the round marker, after that first start, you don't need it right now because your beginning of the round is always going to be right here. However, your color changes are happening 3 stitches before the next color. And I'll show you what that looks like as I work my way across this stripe. And then as we determine where to start our thumb, which is going to be the next process, we're going to continue switching between the orange and the yellow until we're at 3 inches. So I'm on the second stripe, the orange stripe. I'm going to knit till 3 stitches before the color change. So I'm still knitting with the orange, and the stitches that I'm knitting are the yellow. Just want to make sure that you see what this looks like here. I'm getting close. Okay, I have 3 yellow stitches, so that's the color change. Now what I do here is I slide those yellow stitches onto my right needle, and then I knit into the first orange stitch with the yellow. And I just drop that orange yarn, let it lay there, pick up the yellow yarn, start knitting with that. Then I continue knitting around until 3 stitches before the color change. Drop that yarn, slide the 3 stitches, pick up the new yarn, continue knitting. As I knit all the way around, it creates these stripes right here, and there's no jog because it's a step up. And by sliding, like here is where I started. This would be, let me get right in here. This is where I started. See that first yellow stitch right there? But you can't see where it jogs up because I'm sliding those stitches. It's just the physics of it, I guess. It just falls into place. So you'll continue alternating between those 2 colors until your piece measures 3 inches. So right here, till your piece measures 3 inches, which and that's before blocking. It does change just a slight bit after blocking. But go for 3 inches. Then once you're there, I will show you how to work the thumb gusset. So go ahead and continue on and then meet me back here for the thumb gusset. Okay, so I've gone ahead and knit my 3 inches. Now I'm ready to make the increases for the thumb. I'm going to show you how we work that. We're going to knit the first stitch, then we're going to make 1 left by inserting our needle into, bringing it up here, and then we're going to knit into the back loop. Now, sometimes it's going to be a little tight. If you put your needle in and pull it forward a little bit, that's going to give you some more slack on that bar that you picked up. Now, the bar that I'm picking up is between the first stitch that I knitted and the next stitch I'm going to knit right into here. So you can pick it up like this. You can pick it up like this. Whatever is the most comfortable for you. The idea is to get that bar onto your needle, and the idea is that we want it to lean to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and do it this way, then bring my yarn or my needle around the back, and then I'm going to knit through the back loop of that stitch. And I've got a cross there at the bottom of that stitch. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Then I'm going to knit 1. Now we're going to do a make 1 right, which is the same but different. We're picking up the bar between the stitch that we just knit and the next one that we're going to knit, bringing it up, flipping it onto the needle, and then I'm gonna come in and knit this way. So the twist is gonna go in the opposite direction. And there, I have my twist. So then and then after I make that, I'm gonna knit one more stitch, and then I'm gonna place a stitch marker. This is the area for my thumb stitches. Okay, so now we're just gonna continue knitting along. You're gonna knit, continuing the helix knitting, the changing your colors every 3 stitches, or, slipping the 3 stitches before the color change, picking up your new color, knitting with that. You're gonna continue those rounds as you're doing your increases. So we did the increases. Then you're gonna do 2 rounds of your striped knitting, then another row of increases. Then 2 rounds of regular knitting, changing out your colors like normal, and then an increase. You're going to continue doing those until you have 17 stitches between the beginning of the round and your stitch marker. Once you have 17 stitches there, then we're ready to move on into episode 2. So thank you for joining me for episode 1 of the Fingerless Mitts with the Flip Top Knit Along. And be sure to pick up your kit at onebighappy.com. The kit has the pattern and the yarn that you need to make these. Get you a US size 4 knitting needle for knitting in the round of your choice. And then meet me back here in the next episode. We'll finish up the thumb, we'll work on the flip top, and we'll finish up the fingerless mitts. Have a great day and happy knitting!